Hi, this is Rami, CEO of People Processes. I'm talking to you today because I've had a couple of clients ask me as part of the new year how to plan for salary increases or hourly raise increases. Compensation planning is a pretty broad topic, but I wanted to put this short video together just kind of off the top of my head of some of the things to consider. First, I'm going to say that I'm going to set aside what I call variable compensation. That's things like bonuses and commissions, performance incentive plans. That's a topic for another video. And if you're interested in learning more about how to design performance based compensation, let me know down in the comments and I'll make sure to put together a new video. For those of you who are dealing with hourly and salaried employees, you have people who've been happy to work for you for a year, or at least have worked for you for a year, right? And now we're in the new year, and the question is, how should I budget out pay raises? Of course, in the end, it comes down to an individual decision. And if you're a small business, you're lucky because you have the flexibility to evaluate things on a one off basis. You can look at a person and say, this one has worked like three of those, and life's pretty easy. But as you get larger, you really need to think about this from a systematic, process oriented perspective. In general, though we don't necessarily explain this to the employees, from a budgeting perspective, we break compensation planning into two broad categories. On one hand, you have the movement of the entire salary range, and on the other, you have movements inside those salary ranges. For example, let's say you have a white collar standard professional services offers. The rate that's paid to a brand new college graduate joining your office may change year over year, even though it's the same position and you're getting effectively the same level of skill, fresh college grad, the minimum pay is probably going to go up a little bit. That's inflation, but it varies. It's not something you can just go out and get the IRS COLA adjustment, the Department of Labor COLA adjustment, Social Security increase, because the need for, say, programmers in your area, the demand, may strongly exceed the supply one year, and then because of some new college programs or the shutting down of another large employer, you may have a glut of talent. So you want to start by looking at the band itself, thinking, did this move up, down, sideways throughout the year? A simple salary compensation benchmark can normally tell you that. If you're a small business, it's as simple as typing in the job title, check in, and then your area, like so, programmer, salary, Memphis, and check out the listing, salary.com, something like that. There's a lot of different ones. I'm not, I'm agnostic over these various reporting agencies. Just check them out. And you're going to see what the salary band is. Maybe it starts at 30 and goes all the way to 60, or maybe it starts at 60 and goes to 100. That gives you an idea of what an entry level person would be. That's the left side of the salary band. And that's true entry level, no problem. And then you can also look at other jobs and see what other people are paying for fresh experience, looking at job listings. We call that broadly the COLA, cost of living adjustment. But it's not really that, it's supply and demand, the movement of the salary band. In a small business, you may be able to just lay that out as a simple percentage. All of my bands are going to go up 3.5% this year. Maybe you have 20 of one job type and you want to look at that one specifically, see if you see a broader or smaller movement on there, and then take a broad measurement for everybody else. Everything compared to last year's gone up. That's 3.5%. Set that number aside. That's your salary band increase all the way. That's the full movement of your targets. Now, the harder part is the raise that comes from someone being in the job for a year. We call this a merit increase or a tenure increase, but look, it's their employee anniversary and they're expecting a raise. Now, the little bit you've set aside because you know things have gotten more expensive, that's the COLA. But someone who's been in your company for a year or 2 years or 10 years, even in the same job, is likely worth more than someone who just started. So there's an increase that comes from tenure. Hopefully, it's tied to metrics. Some people go, well, I don't want to give a raise just because they've been here a year longer. I agree. But you also shouldn't be keeping people in a job at all because they've just sat around and are here a year longer. Hopefully, performance metrics are in place. Performance management is a different topic, but in general, you want metrics that you can judge someone's success or failure or their growth on. It's not just, did they do the thing? It's, are they better at doing the thing? Did they learn more pieces? The likelihood is someone who's been there a few years in the same position is able to accomplish more or has some institutional like knowledge that allows them to be very helpful in a small sliver of circumstances that no one else is, right? Maybe they're there. Maybe they get a little bit more money because, hey, once every 6 months, this thing comes in and they're the one who knows how to do that. There's a lot of reasons why being around longer means you're probably worth more. Here's the easiest way I know to figure out this step increase, is what it's called in the literature. The band shifts and people take steps along the band. Think about how long someone would potentially stay in the job. A C-level job, maybe the answer is 30 years, but an entry level job, maybe it's 3 years, maybe it's six, maybe it's 10, something like that. And take that number. I'm going to use 10 years to make it easy. There aren't many entry level jobs that people want to stay in for 10 years, but we're going to use that as the number just to make my math easy. So evaluate what you would pay for a brand new starter. That's your market demand research. Someone who joined the company day one, college or high school, first time plumber, apprentice, whatever it is, that's your left side. And then if this person knew everything, they did this job perfectly, they are God tier. They've been here, they know the answers, they barely need a manager because they know what to do, when to do it, how to do it, what the priorities should be. They're a pleasure to work with, they're reliable, they show up, you can count on them. Even if they're still in that entry level job, they're still a base cabinet installer at your shop. They're a receptionist at your building, but they're perfect at that. How much would you pay that person? You can't get better than that. So maybe someone fresh to the organization is worth 50, but if they were just amazing and perfect at it, they knew what they needed to know, how much would you pay? Maybe you'd pay 75 or 80 or 100. And then look at that span of years that you thought about and said, well, the longest someone could stay in this job is maybe 10 years, right? Or likely to stay in this job would be 10 years. And that's going to let you bring out those steps. Okay. If you're willing to pay 40,000 for a brand new, no experienced person and 80,000 if they're perfect, they know everything about you, the organization and the job, they're just so dang good. They're still in that same position. That gives you your band. Keep in mind, this is same position. When you think over 10 years, you often, employers often start to conflate that with promotions, but you can't. You can't conflate this number with management. If they're that good, we're going to have them do other projects. They're going to lead a team. No, 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 no. In this job you've defined, they're perfect. Maybe you're willing to pay 60 and they're ready to go from 40 to 60 and that's your 10-year span. That's a 2 grand a year increase. Plus your COLA adjustment every year is going to move the band. So 10 years from now, it's not going to be 40 new and 60 perfect. It's going to be, maybe 60 and 100, depending on inflation and supply and demand for that particular position. So it's better to think of them in terms of percentages. Let's say over 10 years, they're going from 40,000 to 60,000. That's 2 grand a year. That's 5%, but they compound, right? So it's actually going to be more like a 3% ish piece. So they're going to go from like 40 to 41.2, and then whatever the number after that is, percent, to wind up at a 50% total increase over the course of 10 years, right? You can do this in Excel. If you need someone's help math to do this, let us know. But in general, you want to think about them in terms of percentages so that people get a more consistent raise. The 2 grand is going to feel pretty dang good at 40,000, but not that great going from 58 to 60. Okay, so you want to think about it in terms of percentages. Maybe in your evaluation, you've got a lot of these employees, someone is killing it and they're moving faster. You thought that they'd be in this position for 10 years, but they're in a year into it, they're as good as your people who've been in the position for 3 or 4 years. Well, now you've got a basis for it. You can always move them up 2 or 3 grades at a time if they continue to grow faster than their peers. So at that point, maybe someone caps out. They get to 10 years. Well, at that point or near that point, it's time to have a conversation with them. Look, the absolute best, you're so freaking good personal assistant is going to cap out to some degree. Even they're worth twice or even 3 times as much as a fresh, no experience person, but they're not worth 30 times, right? So at some point it does cap out. And at that point, they're ready for the next big thing. Or you got to talk to somebody and say, look, you're so good at this. Are you comfortable staying here? There's really only, you're at the top of the salary band and you're going to have cost of living adjustments where we move the whole band up. But your rate of raise is going to be not that high staying in this exact position because you've just killed it and you're maxed out. What you'd prefer to do is have a fast growing organization where you can move them into management of similar peers, where you can cross train them and move them into higher paid positions. Hopefully, when people get to the end of your scale, they're ready for the next big thing. But your scale does have an end. In the end, you're never going to pay more for a basic payroll clerk than 2 times what a fresh payroll clerk is going to do. You're going to need to create new job titles that have different bands if you want to continue to have them grow. Okay, so all that to say, that's how you set up those pieces. The work is relatively straightforward. It's just time consuming. You need to do it by job, and an HR person can give you good research. But to some degree, it comes down to the decision of the executive, how you want your company to feel. If you're a fast growing company where you need people to come in, learn a skill, develop, and there's lots of opportunities for promotion, you may not want to do a 10-year scale on any given job, right? Very likely they're going to wind up growing out of it very quickly, and you need to retain your talent in a highly competitive environment that's fast moving. And so maybe you'd need to think about this pay scale in terms of 3 or 5 years. If you're a blue chip organization where people come in and they're the field rep for 20 years and then they become the territory rep for 10 years, well, you've got a much longer scale. So think about those time scales. And that, to a degree, is going to be about your business. You're going to need to give feedback to your HR people on what you think a reasonable scale is. So let's do a quick little recap. COLA adjustments are the movement of the scale. That's the first thing to figure out. All the numbers go up, down, or sideways. Um, and then the scale is from entry level to perfect over some time period. And it's really nice to lay those out. If you need help, People Processes can help you do compensation studies. It's easier on jobs where you have many people to serve as a basis of comparison. It's very difficult when you think about a CEO or perhaps someone who's primarily paid with variable compensation, like a sales rep. That's a whole different conversation, executive compensation and variable comp. But for most jobs, your kind of standard hourly salary jobs, this is the way to go about it. Okay? I hope this is helpful to you. I hope this gives you a decent framework about how to think about compensation and pay raises in any given year. If you have any questions, drop them down in the comments. Go to peopleprocesses.com and check us out. I'd love to help. And I look forward to hearing from you all very soon. Now, it's time for you to go out there, have a great day, and get your work done. I'll see you soon.